Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship headed to Wakefield Park for a club round in late September. And while this round would not contribute to the outright Motorsport Australia State Championship, there was still plenty to play for with club championship points on the line. In Division 2, the battle raged on between the two red cars, Furcher and Ryan, who we see go toe-to-toe round after round. Ultimately, Furcher coming out on top on that one. Tran and Boyle going toe-to-toe for a couple of races in the Nissan GTR and Honda Integra. Great watching around the circuit. Meanwhile, coming through the field after some dramas, Mark Duggan in the Aston Martin. It was great to see him in races 2 and 3 starting to really find some pace out of that car. Ultimately making a great move on Steve Lacey down through turns 1 and 2 to seal victory in the final race of the weekend. The trophy race, the one you want to win, and these guys picking up their first victory in New South Wales Sports Sedans with this car. Brilliant to see. The team was ecstatic down in the pits, and that definitely helped Mark Duggan's club championship charge. Now the championship heads to Sydney Motorsport Park, and for the first time we flick the lights on and race in the dark for race 3. That's coming up on this episode of the Kumho Tyre New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship. Fourth round of the Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship is proudly brought to you by Duggan Family Hotels and these valued partners. So taking a look at the starting grid for the first race of this historic weekend under lights, Grant Doulman with pole position, Steve Lacey second, Nick Smith third, and then a huge field of cars all the way back to 20th place. You can just see it's going to be a great weekend of racing.
Rolling down the hill for the first of 3 Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedan Championship races here at Sydney Motorsport Park, and into the first corner Grant Doulman leads away, Steve Lacey into second, and it looks like it might be Hugh McAllister who's got up to third spot.
Got a great field here for the opening race of the weekend, of course racing to under lights this weekend, Gary, but it's pretty hot out there at the moment for this first race of the weekend in the middle of the day.
It's boiling hot out there, and let's hope all these cars can hang in there under these extreme conditions.
Plenty of battles as well. You can see Nick Smith there coming back through in the RX-7. Those guys have put a lot of effort into that car and finally got it out. A bit of a troubled run at Wakefield Park, but it looks like at Sydney Motorsport Park all is going well in this first race as he comes to the outside of Stuart Inwood. And they're trying to chase down the Kubota car in front of Hugh McAllister. A couple of TA2 cars making a run as an invited class with New South Wales Sports Sedans here this weekend. Be interesting to see how they go with the different strengths and weaknesses of those cars.
Yeah, we're going to say interesting scenario where you've got different types of cars, sports sedans, Trans Am type cars. They've even got the older style Trans Am out of the US as we often see, like the Corvette, which is very different from what we see of the Mazda, a true sports sedan. And of course we've got the newer style Trans Am car of McAllister there. So down the straight, one lap in, and we can't see at the moment, but we know Doulman's out in front, Lacey in second. What we're watching is the battle for third.
Smith trying to work on the back of Inwood as they go through turn 1. You can just see the rest of the field coming through. A puff of smoke there from one of the cars. Sedans gone off, and that's obliterated the front splitter of his car. And then in the background, Furcher as well in the Monaro, sliding rearwards towards the fence, just makes contact. That was a very big off. Wow,
he was going at a rate of knots, wasn't he, Furcher, to go off there, and Stephen looks like he's not going to go too much further in this either. Manages to keep the car going though, but here's some on board we're seeing as we go down into turn 1, and the Escort driver just got a little bit wide, V8 powered, so it's got plenty of grunt, and from there he was just a passenger.
As we take a look at what happened to Furcher, he's wide of the line and a lot of smoke emanating from the front of the car somewhere, so I wonder if he's had some sort of failure. You can see he hasn't pulled any gears, he's still in 6th as he slides across the grass, just trying to hold the brake on and get it rotated. Not sure there's any actual damage to the front of that car. There isn't. It all looks like it's pointing in the same direction, so maybe he's just had some sort of brake problem.
Well, maybe he's seen the Escort go off there and just backed out of it and just hit the brake a bit too hard. I know if I was in his situation, I'd be heavy on him. Further back in the field, Steve Coulter in his Trans Am Mustang, and Chris Jackson. We haven't seen Chris Jackson on track for quite a while, bringing a Calibra Chev back out and giving it a run. And he's in the midst of a pretty good dice there. He's got Graham Channing in front of him. Then it's Coulter, and we see him go down there trying to get past these cars. These are cars that weren't even around here back when he was racing. Oh, Phil Ryan's got a bit of a drama out of turn one. That's not good. The LS-powered Datsun into the wall on the inside of turn one.
And that was pretty reasonable contact as well, so I dare say that's realigned the front of that car as we take on board with Cheney again. Good to see Chris Jackson back out there in the Calibra, of course. Those guys have spent almost a full season rebuilding it. Last run here at Sydney Motorsport Park for the last round of last season. Caught fire in that round due to some oil leak, which is unfortunate, but then that enabled them to just fully tear it apart and go right back to the basics with it.
There's big dice going on for the lead too. Lacey's caught right up with Doulman, and of course there are actually some interesting scenarios here. The latter car, the yellow Trans Am Camaro, he wants to secure the club championship, while Grant Doulman is undefeated in the state championship.
Yeah, they're both battling for championships, aren't they? Got to try to keep those points up. It's going to be one of those things that makes it a little bit confusing, of course, with the stop-start season that we've had, with how these championships are going to fall, because you've got some guys who have done every round, some guys who have only done the state rounds, and some guys who have only done the club rounds overall. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of it, as now Coulter starts to put more pressure on the back of Cheney. Jackson is right there as well. These guys still line astern. You don't want to be sitting directly behind a car in this weather. You can see there Jackson to the inside and takes the position because it's just a bit hot.
Yeah, he's certainly got a little bit more straight line than what the newer cars have. They're more or less a crate engine straight out of the box LS3 engine, and we've just seen Coulter go back underneath Jackson when he's got a little bit out of shape there at turn two.
Yeah, Jackson was pushing a little bit harder. I think he tried to decide to clear both TOT cars at once and didn't quite make it. Cheney had a wobble through turn one, so we'll see what Jackson can do now in the CSJ Engineering Kumho Tyres Calibra. He'll hopefully be able to pass. There he is to the inside, so he's made it easily before the final corner, and that just goes to show. I think you'd say, though, that Jackson is just making sure that all the systems are good at this point in time to run this car.
Oh yeah, and blowing the cobwebs off his own form as well, I guess, a little bit. Hasn't had a great deal of run, as you can see at the end of the straight. There's not a lot of difference in the straight line performance from... Well, it looks like he just had a bit of a drama there. And let's hope... Oh, no, he's pulled off. He has had a drama.
So, major drama for Chris Jackson, unfortunately. That'll be the end of his race and pulls him out of this battle as well. So, these guys are actually now battling for 7th in the race with some of the attrition we've had. We've got a few cars that have gone out of this one or slowed down majorly, which is unfortunate, as now, look at this, Nick Smith passes Steve Lacey. I would expect that there's something wrong with Lacey's car as well in this heat, because you wouldn't think generally that someone like Smith would catch him and pass him. That car's fast, but they're not that much of a difference.
Yeah, and given the heat, I would have thought the turbocharged car might have suffered more so. But yeah, to get through and move away, and then you can see him coming up to some lap traffic ahead. But they've persisted with this car that was pretty groundbreaking when it was first built. And spent a bit of time in Queensland, came out of Dubbo in New South Wales originally, went to Queensland, and now we see they're just starting to get on top of some of the issues. Speaking of getting on top, Coulter up the inside of Cheney to take away P2 in the Trans Am class that's running here this weekend.
Those guys are definitely putting a lot of power through the rear tyres. You can see how hard they're sliding towards the end of the race. As we see here at the end of the race, Doulman with a clean pair of heels. He's been able to open 20 seconds to Nick Smith behind, aided, I think, by those dramas for Lacey. But there he is across the line to take victory in the opening race of the weekend. So Nick Smith in second, Stewart in with third, fourth Steve Lacey, fifth goes to Hugh McAllister. One of the cars that's seen a lot of work in the past season has been Nick Smith's RX-7, a car that he has brought back to be able to be an outright contender.
Oh yeah, I was building a new car for a lot of years, and was taking a long time, and I always wanted to buy this car since like 1999. So I got a phone call last year to say that it was for sale, so I finally got a hold of it. So I've kind of got my dream car. So finally got it going, and we've spent this year developing it and trying to get it going, and that's the first time it's finished a race in forever. So that was pretty good. What we've been through and the amount of work we've put in lately that's just fantastic. So really, really happy and excited to be where we are, and nervous. And there's so much more left in the car. Like, it's running low boost. We haven't even touched settings onto the suspension, so there's lots more to go. My goal for today was to finish anything. So I finished the race in second, so goal's done. Yeah, I'd really like to thank my dad most of all. Like, the amount of work he's put in lately is just unbelievable. My wife for letting me never be home the last however long, and my mum for looking after the kids when I can't, my wife can't, and just a heap of friends from racing that have helped. Bullet Race Engineering, we've got one of their billet blocks in there, which has really helped the car. Chris and Nick here, who've been helping me out with the car, thanks to everyone that's put in lately. Like, there's been a lot of people.
So taking a look at the starting grid for race 2, Grant Doulman picks up where he left off. Nick Smith, Stuart Inwood behind, and Steve Lacey, who managed to limp himself to 4th place. Flip across the page and just have a look for William Furcher starting from the back of the grid. He'll be trying to make his way through.
As the sun starts to get lower in the sky in preparation for our night race later on, this is race 2 for the Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports and Championship. And again, you can see that Grant Doulman has got out in front. Lacey's had a poorer start. He's actually dropped back to about 4th position there for the moment. One would assume that he might get the... No, he doesn't. So Hugh McAllister holds 3rd, as Stuart Inwood holds 2nd, and Doulman leads to go over the top of the tunnel the first time. We're on board with Steve Lacey as he tries to pick up those positions.
He's made light work of getting past McAllister there, hasn't he? He's really just put the foot down and got through, but you can see this field of TA2 cars in the middle. Furcher coming from the back of the field as well. They've managed to get that car all sorted and back out for the race. Phil Ryan unfortunately returning to Bathurst, so he will not partake in any further in the day, which is unfortunate as well for his championship, because the Division 2 battle is on pretty hard between Furcher and Ryan.
Yeah, I think Phil's a little bit west of Bathurst. I think he's from Blaney, so it's only a little bit further on. Probably have a pit stop in Bathurst on the way through. Here we are with Lacey on board down the straight, first time. He's already made light work of those ones that were behind him, but he's got to get past Inwood. And just see where Smith is at the moment.
Yeah, he hasn't taken the start of the race. So Smith, who was starting in 2nd, unfortunately for them, a mechanical drama has meant that they haven't started this one. I believe, Gary, it was an ECU plug that's caused the drama.
Well, that's what we found out later, yeah, that the plug had actually come off the back of the ECU, and unfortunately it stopped him from going out. But hasn't stopped Furcher coming through the field in Monaro, as you can see. No damage on the back of it. From that. Now it has.
A little bit of hip and shoulder there through the final complex as he charged his way through.
Yeah, him and Ryan, very good mates, and somewhat symbolic that they both went off at the same corner. Not at the same time. Great for that.
As we go down through turn 1. So Furcher showing that he can work his way through these TA2 cars. Of course, he's running an LS V8 motor as well. A little bit of a different setup underneath them, of course, vastly different looks, but they look pretty good on track together anyway, the TA2s and some of the sports stands, don't they?
Yeah, I would love to have seen a Monaro as a Trans Am car. It would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Probably looks good. So Furcher's one is very, very well presented, of course. He puts a lot of effort into that one. Works with Ryan, as we've said. The two of them share setup and different things like that with each other when they need to around the races. We see here Crutcher battling with Ian McAllister in the second McAllister Motors car. Now 2 different colours, which is good to see to help us out a little bit, which has been worthwhile. But Crutcher not wanting to give this one up. He's making McAllister go the long way around, and McAllister is going to make it work easy as they go down into turn 6. Now it'll be a case of the braking duel, and under brakes the challenger is going to hold on to the position against the Kumho. No, Kumho gets there.
Yeah, very good mates these two, from southwest New South Wales. Well, obviously, Ian McAllister, we often call the young Ford dealer, and then correct ourselves, he's actually the Ford dealer from Young, because he is not a senior citizen yet, but he mustn't be too far off. But what a great guy.
We're going to stay away from that one as we have a look at Ford, and this is behind him, Charles Spiteri in Turbo Charlie Racing. Now, Charles had a little bit of a problem in race 1 and has had to work his way back through the field. John Ford, a good long-time campaigner in the NCAT pedestrian fencing car with his Nissan Skyline. That thing absolutely brilliant, a weapon of a car as well. He's put a lot of work into it. If you go back through previous rounds and have a look at the New South Wales Sports Stands Championship, you can see how he's developed the aero kit on it over time and really got that car humming along. Speaking of that, Gary, Lacey is all over the back of Doulman as they come onto the straight at the midpoint of this race, and it looks like he's going to be able to make the pass. You'd have to think there's something wrong with Doulman's car.
Well, yeah, you'd have to say that. It's extremely hot out there at this time. It's probably the hottest part of the whole day, and Lacey goes through the lead, but they're not doing very quick lap times. This is a surprising bit about it. So I dare say they're both suffering a little bit with the amount of heat going on around the place at the moment.
Doulman's thing doesn't sound all that healthy from the in-car, but Lacey will be looking at the opportunity to take some points away. There's a racer through and through, Steve Lacey. He wants to try to take as many wins and points as he can, because you never know what might happen at the final round at Wakefield Park in just a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, and there was also bragging rights of knocking off it. No, well, that's over and done with quick smart, wasn't it? And Lacey now with dramas and just drops back behind Doulman, and Doulman, as we said, was unbeaten coming into this round, and I guess he wanted to keep a perfect record intact as much as Lacey wanted to make sure he didn't.
Yeah, that's it. So Doulman's won every state championship race that he's entered this year. If you've been watching the whole season, last round was not part of the state championship. Doulman wasn't there, and that's why you'll see that there's 3 other winners throughout the year. But in the state championship, the one that plays for the trophy from Motorsport Australia, Doulman is unbeaten as now side by side out of the hairpin. But Doulman gets just that little bit better drive. So it's a bit of a battle between the walking wounded between these two. They're not slow enough to be caught from the cars behind, but they're a little bit off from their normal pace.
Well, I think everyone's suffering, and it doesn't help when you slide off the track a little bit out of turn 11. Here's Furcher trying to make a move on Hugh McAllister. This will be for somewhere up near the front. I would imagine that they'd be 3rd or 4th, depending where Inwood is at this stage, although I've got a feeling Inwood's... yes, he's still there, so he's in 3rd spot, and that's the battle going on behind him. Another one of our Trans Am cars running this weekend, just getting past there.
Lloyd Godfrey getting through in the Futura Trailers Honda Integra, but soon swamped up again down the back straight. So this is the difference between horsepower and agility that you see in sports sedans.
Indeed so, and of course the Honda driver joined us at the last round down at Wakefield Park and came out.
Oh no!
He's not joining us now. He's off the track down at turn 2.
I dare say he's outbraked himself while trying to get back
dramas
to
for Lacey.
The Camaro.
He's right up there. He's just he's got a problem. Maybe something that
he's gone back into the back of the pits. So that's the end of his run. Obviously a drama enough to put him out of the race. Not long left in it. Furcher tries to back it down the inside of McAllister. This is now the battle for the final spot on the podium. So they won't probably know this in the car. So McAllister might, because he's got, I know, people on radio to him, but I think Furcher generally runs without any communication. Runs it with most of the guys that are around, which is what happens in sports sedans. So he might not know that he's fighting for a podium position here outright. Just look at the way he slides in through that final corner. He's pushing hard off onto the dirt as well. And he's got to try it. He's got one more lap to be able to try to make that move.
And here's our race leader with less than half a lap to go, Grant Doulman. It looked a bit sus for a while or so, but he certainly struck back strongly, and there he comes out onto the straight for last time. So 2 from 2 this weekend so far. Grant Doulman takes a win.
very comprehensive win as well in the end, 20 seconds over Stuart Inwood. So he brings it home. Stuart Inwood second. Hugh McAllister held on for third. William Furcher, Michael Coulter, Graham Cherney in sixth place. We'll take a quick break and be back here on the other side with Blendline TV. It's been a tough round for William Furcher with a few dramas with the Monaro, but the team effort keeps him on track and racing every weekend.
Started off rough. We had a brake fail on turn 1 at probably 260k an hour, so wasn't too exciting. We watched that one out, and then race 2 we started rear of the field, 16th, and we got up to 4th. Had a dice with Hugh in the TA2 car. Could have grabbed us third, but we're just content with the outside for race 3 under lights. Looking forward to it. Probably the most exciting is for an old guy that can say that he raced when he was an 18-year-old at Oran Park under lights. So, and tonight's a night again, so bring it on. Wimberley Car Care, Lachlan O'Reilly, who's my main mechanic, and the poor bugger had to work hard when the car was through the kitty litter in race 1. So, and Joshua as well. So without helpers, we can't do this sport. So thank you very much.
The sun's gone down, the lights are up, and now it's time for the first race under lights for New South Wales Sports Sedans. Taking a look at the grid, Grant Doulman again starting from pole. Watch for Nick Smith coming through the field, and Steve Lacey as well, those guys down the back after some dramas.
Well, the sun's gone, the lights are on, and the New South Wales Sports Sedan Championship races in the dark for the first time. And look how well lit this track is as they get away. It's Doulman in the front. Steve Coulter looks for a run down the inside, and it's Inwood around the outside who takes away the lead. Graham Cherney in the third spot there. And we believe that we have Steve Lacey back. We've got Nick Smith back, so they're coming back from through the field, and already you can see Lacey's made up a lot of positions, attempting to go around the outside of Mark Crutcher, and Nick Smith in behind him.
He's going to get squeezed on the exit there from Crutcher, so Lacey just had to give a little moment to be able to breathe out of the throttle and get back past now. There he goes, charges past Crutcher easily on the run over the hill. But yes, this is the first time under lights. It's going to be interesting to see how it looks for the drivers once they finish the race or go through the race and get a chance to have a real understanding of how the lighting around this track looks. But from the in-cars that we've seen, it actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, indeed so. We've just seen a bit from Nick Smith here. He's lucky, he's right behind Lacey, so Lacey's a trailblazer, and he'll just follow him through wherever he needs to, because everyone will be aware that there is a quick car coming past him, although they're not being too polite about it at the moment. And Lacey's actually stole a couple of car lengths or so away and put them in between him and Smith, because I dare say in these sorts of conditions now it's starting to chill off a little bit, not a great deal. They'll want to try and get to the front as soon as possible.
I was going to say, don't get confused if you're watching the coverage. It's still mid to high 20s out there at the moment, and it's nearly 10 o'clock at night for these guys. I think they raced at about 9:20 was the start of the race, so still quite warm. Of course, summer afternoons late in the year, but it's great to see this racing under lights, and the lighting around the circuit's a credit to the ARDC and everybody involved with building it. Hopefully we'll see more sports sedans racing from the Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship here at Sydney Motorsport Park next year under lights. But for now, enjoying this one. Nick Smith to the inside of McAllister. He's going to get there, and Cherney loses out to Lacey as well. So these two are carving their way through the field in the early stages.
Yeah, in case you're wondering too, Lacey retired from the earlier race due to a rear tyre puncture.
Yeah.
A bit unfortunate. Maybe when he jumped off the track up at the top of turn 11 there, chasing down Doulman. Look, we've got flame out coming out of Nick Smith's turbocharged Nissan-powered Mazda RX-7. Brings it out on the straight now. He should blow past Cherney pretty easily, I would have thought, in a straight line, and yes, he does.
brilliant to see, isn't it? There you go. That's turbo power versus a V8, a straight horsepower fight down the main straight. And Nick Smith able to get there. You'd have to say that Smith's car probably set up a bit better for corner exit and things like that as well. Of course, the TA2 is limited with what they can do.
Indeed, the Trans Am car's pretty standard engine-wise. And there we see Lacey go into second position ahead of Inwood. Still a fair gap up to our race leader in Grant Doulman, going for his 9th win in the state championship this weekend. 9 wins from 9 starts, and now we look back and we can see this is Smith moving in on Inwood, and Inwood politely lets him go down the inside into turn 1, so that moves Smith up into position 3. He's in a position where he may be able to challenge Lacey later on in this one.
You would expect so. Hasn't Inwood had a season where he's flown under the radar as well? I feel like we mention him fairly regularly, but just in passing a lot, because he's just sort of sat there in the top 3 and not done anything too spectacular like this from Godfrey. A big slide through 1. He's managed to keep it off the fence. It's gone every way, but made the fence there, and he'll be able to keep going in the Ventura Trailers Honda Integra.
Yeah, pluck first gear and let's get going, it says. After I get my breath back and whatever else I can find.
It's a heart starter moment, that's for sure.
Here we go, our battle is on for P2. Apologise for not showing you much of Grant Doulman, but this is where all the action is, and as you can see, Smith does the deal on Lacey going down the straight. I dare say all is not well with Lacey anyway, and he'll be just going for points this weekend. Club Championship counts for all rounds, whether they're New South Wales State Championship or not, so you'd be mindful that you want to maintain your front running in that.
Isn't this been a great outing for Nick Smith though? Unfortunate for them that they couldn't find that plug issue before race 2. Unfortunately, with how much time you need to give these cars to cool down, be worked on, get back underneath the bodywork, as we take a look at the replay here of how Cheney lost 2 positions. So there's Coulter forcing his way past, and then McAllister did the same thing at turn 2. So that's how he lost his 2 spots.
Well, he was up for his best result in Trans Am before that happened, and Fletcher getting out of the way as well, so he's got more problems to get home with.
Unfortunately for him, it was all looking pretty good. He was up inside the top 5 quite comfortably after his second race. Great drive all the way through the field as well, but now he's just going to slide back through. He won't lose any points to these guys, so that's why it's important for him to just stay out there, because he'll still pick up a good points haul, as now McAllister looks to the outside of Coulter, and this is the sort of battling that we're used to seeing from these guys. Cheney with a massive slide.
Yeah, trying to stick with him, and just probably hasn't got the tyres under him at this stage. And he'll jump back to second. Interesting in the Trans Am battle that McAllister's been the winner of that in the last 2 races. But here we are in race 3, and he's now chasing Steve Coulter. So can Coulter get one off him? We have to wait and see. It's great seeing the flame outs coming out of the turbocharged Nissan engine there.
We've been a bit surprised not to see more from Steve Lacey's car, the one on the screen, because of course that one's one that we've seen a lot of flames from all around the tracks this season, and now under lights not as much.
Not at all,
yeah.
It would seem. And we are now on the last lap, and Nick Smith consolidates his second position. As you can see, Grant Doulman well out of the picture. Here he is now coming through turn 7 down to 8 for the last time. Chev powered as well, but inside a Falcon body, and brings it out onto that straight. Of course, his father-in-law Jeff Brown drove this car for many years. Unfortunately, he's passed away, and they've got this car and they've rebuilt it, repainted it. Here they come out with Emma, his daughter, and Grant, of course, has been campaigning this car now in the second season, and they've done some really good stuff with it. And not to mention this one as well, race 3 winner, Grant Doulman, ahead of Nick Smith and Steve Lacey.
So Grant Doulman makes it 9 from 9 for the season. We caught up with him down in the pit lane to get his thoughts on a great weekend of racing.
Yeah, so our day started off pretty well. We qualified on pole and obviously extended it out to the 3 race sprints, which was really good. Race 1 we sort of got through and it was good. Fairly warm day and a lot of heat in the cars, everything like that. So we think maybe a bit of an electrical gremlins come from all that heat. So through race 2, we had an intermittent electrical problem, just kept starting, stopping, fairly savagely actually. And in race 3, it may or may not have done a little bit of damage to the motor. I'm not sure yet. We've got to pull it apart and have a look. Maybe it might have done a spark plug or something silly like that. But yeah, so I had to float it through those last 2 races. Oh, mint. I cannot recommend it enough. If anybody can come out for a night, especially I've seen the rolling drags and bits and pieces out here, and as a kid used to come out here and watch a bit of the drags they used to have here. I got to tell you, it's so much fun under the lights, and they should have a lot more. I reckon the ARDC have done very well this weekend with putting this event on. Sure. I'd like to thank Silk Laser Clinics, the Rouse Hill branch, the Northbridge branch. We have a branch in Robina in Queensland and about to open a new one in Ipswich. So those girls, they work very hard and allow us to have the time away. So thank you to them. Motorsport Connections with Shane, Gretsch Motorsports, and obviously Smith's Engine Research. Wayne is always doing our engines, getting them going. And above all, the competitors that are out here, we all have a lot of fun. And Kumho Tyre, our series sponsor, always give us good boots to play with. So, yeah.
There it is, a historic weekend for the Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship here at Sydney Motorsport Park. We hope you've enjoyed all the action, proudly brought to you by Dutton Family Hotels. Keep an eye out on the New South Wales Sports Sedans Facebook page and website for all their upcoming rounds and 2021 season. It's set to be a cracker.